I think solidarity is everything. Unity is everything. Everybody together for one cause. And that one cause is to secure a good contract for everyone.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
We have a caller on the line, so let's get to the caller, see what they have to say.
All right, 740, you are on the air.
Well, that's me.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Ohio. I'm a 35-year part-time employee with UPS. And because of the contract, I have, engaged more on social media. I found your channel, found your site, and I think you're doing a good job. I called mostly to tell you to continue. It's informative, and it's motivating. You're doing a good job.
I appreciate it, brother. That really does mean a lot.
Anything that you would like to ask me, I'm a steward, 20-plus year steward, part-time. And if you have anything, I was there in 97. I stood, on the picket line in 97. And if you have anything you'd like to ask me, we can continue the conversation.
Yeah, well, I guess how are people in your workplace feeling about these negotiations? Do you feel like they are they're as motivated as it seems like the Teamsters membership are online?
I think so. In our location, it's small. It's an extended center. We're not in a hub. There's a big difference, and they're treated differently. So the people in the small hub, they're in the same community, of course, play ball, their kids play ball, go to school. So you have a great deal of solidarity in, there's one mission. We all have to come together part-time, full-time to accomplish this mission. And our local leadership is extremely engaged. They keep us well informed. They participate, and it's hard to believe. In the 35 years that I've been there, you have a lot of times local officials that you always hear people say, "Well, they only show up when it's election time, or they only show up at this time." We have a local that's engaged. They're not concerned just with the big hubs. They're concerned with everyone. And when you engage your members like that, then they become involved. They're informed, and they become motivated.
Yeah, that's really important. I think to have membership or leadership that facilitates engagement by the membership. I think that really makes a world of difference in how not only how the membership feels, but how much power it gives them.
Well, it does, and again, we have two large hubs in the local, and that's where a lot of members are. So from an election standpoint, that's where your votes are, and where your problems occur, generally speaking. And sometimes those extended centers, and they're all across the United States, little centers out in the middle of nowhere, that those members seem to be forgotten or have in the past. That's not the case now. The area that I'm in, it's like probably, I live in the poorest county in Ohio, and we have a nuclear facility. So it's probably the most economically depressed area. There's no industry, no manufacturing industry in our area. There's some manufacturing, but it's small scale. So opportunities are, you're going to work on a sawmill, you're going to cut timber, or you're going to farm. That's your opportunities, other than maybe a government job of some sort, unless you're a professional. You go to the hospital.
Right. Well, what would you say are some of the biggest issues for people in your facility in these contract negotiations? And do you feel like it seems like the negotiating committee is addressing them.
Yes. We've had contract proposals and a lot of concerns. People put on their proposals, and those proposals are, and that's nationwide. It's the getting rid of the 22-4, which was the two-tier driver. Now, when I say that, and this is something that's not really been out in the print, there's a full-time position with UPS that's basically inside. They call them 22-3 jobs. They're a combination. They take two part-time jobs and combine them to a full-time job. That was part of what 97. That was part of the strike of 97. You'll see the old signs that say, more full-time jobs. And that's where those were created in 97. And they combine those jobs. Well, some of those jobs are inside and you're loading packages. And the other half, that may be 4 hours. And then the other half of that job is you're driving air packages. Now, here's where the rub is. While you're working on the inside, you're paid your part-time, what your seniority affords you at your part-time rate. If you go out and you drive the airs, you're afforded that air rate, which is substantially higher.
Right.
And one of the concerns in our area is that you have a full-time Teamster making a part-time wage.
Yeah.
And that, you don't see that in print too much, but I feel like it is being addressed.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Jose, who's a Teamster from out in California, in the chat said said the same thing that you did. 22-3s are paid less than a full-time driver, and and one of the things that I saw from actually, and it surprised me that this person claimed to be a package car driver, complaining in our comments section in one of the videos about the idea that part-timers. He was complaining about a part-timer calling in saying, we need a raise. We need, this person was saying 25 an hour would be good. And this person said the idea that a part-timer should be making the same rate as a package car driver is just terrible. And, because part-time jobs aren't supposed to be full-time or aren't supposed to provide for a family. And it just kind of shocks me that the penalty for working, you should face two penalties for working part-time, right? I certainly understand, I work less hours, so I get less money, right? I understand that. But the idea that I make less money by virtue of working less hours, and I also have a lower wage rate, that seems wild to me. Right?
I started in 1988. At $8 an hour. Mm-hmm. Now, you can put that in the inflation calculator and come up, and you're going to come up close to 25. That's buying power.
Right.
So in 1988, we had what they called skilled labor. If you went to the preload, you started, you was an unloader, and you went to the preload, you made $1 more an hour. So within 90 days, I was making $9 an hour, had a 50-cent raise and another 50-cent raise within a year. So I'm at $10 an hour, while minimum wage for the state of Ohio was $3.35 or $3.25 at that time. So that they called us student workers, and going to college, that was substantial. That was a substantial amount of my tuition. Was it a living wage? Well, I was young right then. So when you're young and you're strong, you don't need near as much money, I guess. But the point that I am making is that the part-timers now, and for the last, really, there's a slot between 5 and, say, 20 years. Those part-timers have come in at that $10 an hour and got the general wage increase and never have not seen any kind of what they call catch-up raises. There were catch-up raises in, I believe it was a 2002-2007 contract for part-timers, which was, it caught a lot of guys up in a sense. am I looking to live from a part-time job? No. That's not, I'm not going to make a career of the part-time job. But the fact that I go in there and people say, well, under the contract, you're guaranteed 3.5 hours. You show up, you're guaranteed 3.5 hours. And this is under the central. So that's fine. However, in peak season, you might work 6, 7, maybe 8, depending on what shift you're on.
Mm-hmm.
So from a part-time, if you're running part-time, in July, you're getting 3.5, maybe 4 hours. In November, you're working 6 hours. So you have, you got to learn to tweak schedules. And you can do that. I'm not going to say that it's not an excuse to cry, oh, I'm part-time and I'm here. You still have to be self-motivated.
Well, I really appreciate the call. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, just that, I think that solidarity is everything. Unity is everything. Everybody together, for one cause. And that one cause is to secure a good contract for everyone. And I think that that's what the IBT is doing, and I think that translates down, at least in our local, is translating down. And I think that's my perspective. And now you have a perspective from Ohio.
All right.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for sharing, brother. Really appreciate it.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.